Hi, this is Nicole Brandt. I'm doing this video to finally, I guess, unpack with myself and everyone some of my viewpoints for the past few years. I think what I have to say at this point is important for people that are moderately liberal and are kind of dehomed because the far left has gone absolutely insane. So I think it'll help people in kind of my stages of awakening and understanding a lot of these issues from a more intellectual, situational standpoint, and not, I guess, from something that is more divisive, the way that the media tries to make each side be. So, great, let's get started. So, like I said, a lot of posts. I'm from a very liberal background. I grew up in a small community outside of Austin, Texas that was predominantly conservative. I would feel ostracized and very confused, but it's fine. It was a great experience. I'm so glad I had it. And then I ended up going to University of Wisconsin, which was very, very prominently liberal. And it was having those two experiences, I think, enriched my sense of perspective so clearly, because I was able to unpack both perspectives without being overly identified with each one. My family most of my family's from California overseas, but my identity is so tied to Texas. I figured that out moving away, and towards the end of college, I ended up being more reflective and I guess nuanced with what I believe, because I was unsure totally. And I kind of want to walk everyone through what happened during 2016 and just my thought process through that, and from a place that's more nuanced and not as black and white as far as everything else that's been promoted. I am against the protests as far as destruction of property and the killing and the violence, but I believe that protesting for Black lives is important and very, very righteous for people that are doing it the right way, in a respectful way. And as long as they condone the violence and they're advocating for policies and issues in the Black community that are action a forefront, I am all for it, because it's one of my biggest passions and some of the things I've studied so intensely in college, and some of the social work and social programs I'm going to invest in going forward. Great, so let's get started. So I honestly voted for Bono both times. My family is very liberal, and I was very, 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 very free-spirited growing up. I had nose ring, I had flowers in my hair, I shopped at vintage stores, I was very creative, very artistic. But something happened to me in 2015, because I grew up in Texas, and Texas is really its own country. It's a different experience than anywhere else in the country. And I think when I went to the Midwest, I was ill-prepared for the culture shock and the difference of the North at large. And I realized through my studying of understanding my experience in Texas and then going up north, there's a lot of division in the North as far as social economics compared to the South. So the South, what I've learned from my own perspective and also through my research, the South is all newer industry. So you have tech and oil and new entrepreneur and things like that happening in Austin and other parts of Texas like Dallas. And then you have places like Atlanta that have all these new factories coming in. So you see a lot more social mobility between races and racial groups. And the South has been heavily integrated for a much longer time than the North. The North is all older industry, and so you see a lot more racism in a way, but also it's more classism. So it's more about older money and older divisions on class lines. So a lot more class stratification in the North. And so unpacking these issues, when in 2015, I remember studying, I think, what was that study thing called? Union South. I was in Union South studying, and the Black Lives Matter protests were happening outside my building, and I never experienced anything like that before. Like I said before, I've overbombed both times. I've always been a very free spirit, but I've never seen this kind of anger and vitriol from a community my entire life. And it scared me, honestly. And I just started reading and reading and reading. And I've always been kind of the bird looking into a culture, because I've never really had like a finite culture. I never really had a place to belong, which makes me interesting, but also kind of culturally homeless, I guess. And so I was in Madison looking at that, and I was just, this is so interesting, like what's going on? And so I started digging in deep, because I grew up liberal, and Obama disappointed me in many ways. Like in 2008, when he put in the same people that basically destroyed our economy from the mortgage crisis, and never actually persecuted those people that destroyed so many lives from 2008, and they were still in the same positions. And Obama never really spoke out during the first Black Lives Matter protests and said something unifying. It was very divisive as well. I kind of lost faith in him towards the end, so I was already kind of on like a new mountain of looking up things and looking up different narratives to begin with, because I really believed in Obama. I really wanted racial equality. I really wanted people to be accepted and loved. He had such a great voice and such a great message, and I really believed in him. And then it just didn't play out, and so many things that he passed were so detrimental to the U.S. and to Black America, and those issues I'm so passionate about, and I was really disappointed. So that being said, I was on this realm of researching things about politics. So it was 2015. I was also going through my own like personal I guess revelation or transition as well. And I started researching Ben Shapiro, and then Larry Elder came up on a YouTube discussion, and they were criticizing Obama's foreign policy. I never heard anyone criticize Obama for in a way that sounded so intellectually sound and truthful, and not something more nuanced. And so Ben Shapiro has exploded. I don't know if I fully support all about Ben Shapiro anymore. I think he's gone a little bit too far right for me. Larry Elder is pretty sound, and I really liked Larry Elder because he talked about different narratives surrounding the Black community as far as fatherlessness. And he talks about the ways fatherlessness has extremely affected the Black community. And he does say, I've heard different arguments as well as the welfare that's incentivizing women to have kids without the father in a home to make more money. And also from slavery, there's some historical things with slavery with the men can never actually be with their wife because of the persecution from slave owners. I heard both sides of the story. I don't really know, but Larry Elder really digs in deep from his own personal experience of how, from his own father's understanding, how having a father not in a home really was detrimental to men in the Black community. So great, I went through all that, and then I was like, okay, I was still not clear. I didn't have a finite understanding of what was going on. And then I also was going through my own mental and emotional awakenings and spiritual awakenings by myself for my own interpersonal life. So it wasn't like I was passionate, but I was reading about it. And then essentially I remember it was my senior year. I had a crazy, I was going through a lot of other different friendship issues and college struggle that you deal with in college. And I ended up my senior year, had a lot of free time where I could read a lot about what's going on, and I was taking a globalization class and a poverty in America class. So my poverty in America class unpacked the ways that NAFTA basically gutted the middle class and took away a lot of the middle class livelihoods and jobs, and how they were inundated with opioids and a lot of pain and trauma and horrible things in the middle class from NAFTA. So NAFTA, the National Free Trade Agreement, put in by the Clintons, was supposed to unify everyone to make more money and make business become global within North America. But what ended up happening was that, which also ties into immigration policy, but what ended up happening was that NAFTA was passed, and it gave different transnational corporations the allowability to go into places like Honduras or Bolivia and nationalize their national resources for national corporations. So, for example, with Honduras has done bananas for their whole livelihood. So the Honduras used to have their own GDP. So they would make bananas, and the bananas would be sold in Honduras or sold internationally, but all the money would go back to Honduras. So Honduras was able to have a very stable, stratified economy. But what NAFTA did, it allowed global corporations to come in and to nationalize and buy out the Honduras banana farmers and to buy out their livelihoods. And so all these Hondurans didn't have any source of income or any source of work or fruits of their labor. And so they all decided they wanted to immigrate to the US. And this is not just Honduras, it's Colombia, it's South America, it's all those countries that decided, I want to immigrate now because I want work. And that's essentially what people immigrate to the US because they want a better life, they want a livelihood, right? So they all decided to immigrate to America. The problem is that the working class are out of jobs, and the only jobs that are left are the gig industry and service jobs, because most of the really good manufacturing jobs and labor jobs are gone because of degradation of the unions, and that NAFTA as well stripped the jobs from the working class and brought those overseas. So all the big factories now are all in Bangladesh, India, China. So that money, that fair wage that Americans had is now gone, right? So you have all these people coming from the border, across the border, and it becomes this tension within smaller towns because they're fighting for jobs. And so I understood all this. And so it was 2015, and Trump was running, and I still did not have the connection. I was still so involved in understanding most of the global perspectives, understanding globalism and what it has done to other parts of the third world as well, with the food aid movement, of how we manufactured U.S. grain into third world countries and totally abolished different third world countries' ability to have their own agriculture, which created poverty and made those countries reliant on U.S. grain. And I was so involved with understanding that from an intellectual perspective that I negated to really have an understanding of the election between Hillary and Clinton, how much that was actually playing out. And I also was going through my own, deflection of my own interpersonal issues that I had in college. And my own emotional issues as well. So, and then Trump got elected, and I didn't vote for him. I was indifferent, and I was like I said, in my own head, in my own world. I didn't really care at that point about it, and but it was after that I started unpacking it because it was such a shock, and it was so bizarre, and I was on this intellectual train of understanding what's happening. And so I started reading, and I think a lot of things have been misconstrued, and realizing now that I think after having all this information and really empathizing too with the working class, and my boyfriend in high school and college was from the working class, and there was a lot of pain and trauma with that relationship. I also understood a lot where it was coming from, and really unpacking that, and having good friends that were from small towns, Wisconsin, and loving the beauty of a small town, and having when those industries were alive, and how much beautiful and prosperousness that brought to those small towns, and falling in love in Wisconsin, falling in love with Wisconsin as a place really brought me this understanding and this ability to unpack these issues from a more nuanced place. And then also growing up in Texas, where I grew up with conservatives, I realized that it's not as black and white as a lot of the media and what we were told to be. And in my disappointment with Obama not addressing Black Lives Matter, not helping unity, not having a true stance about Nicole Brandt and those initial horrible situations that happened, and then now we're in 2020 and we're still in the same narrative. It's frustrating because I'm a person that wants solutions. I want to find something that will help these communities because I'm passionate about it. I love community gardens and community farming. I love the things I've learned in college about places in Chicago and Detroit where they turned empty lots into gardening and feeding underprivileged kids in inner cities good food and teach them how to cook vegetables and fruits and learning how to enjoy good food so they're able to prosper, and unpacking the lead crisis in Flint and how that's detrimental to Black men's and Black women's ability to grow up because they've been lead poisoned and they have behavioral issues and they get all wrapped up in the jail system. I'm passionate about all those things, but I really think before any of us will find some sort of agreement, you have to know that there's atrocities and there's pain on both sides of the spectrum. And I think a lot of times people have gone awry or array or however you want to say it is because they get too compartmentalized in one issue, and you let the media force you into a bubble and into a narrative that's not empathetically true for everyone. I think most people want to come together and help each other and help us all become more aware and more informed about all these different issues. And I'm not saying that the Black strife and issues is even comparable to what the working class has gone through as well. But before you can demonize your enemy, you have to know where the enemy is coming from so you know how to fight in the right way, right? And so on both sides, if you take the time to empathize and to really intellectualize and research and open your mind up to what's like to in that person's perspective, in that person's life, in that person's trials and pain before you demonize other people, I think would really help you heal and also help the other side to heal as well. And you can come together to an agreement and you can work together to make solutions. Because I think that's what we all want, right? We all want solutions. No one here is saying the other side is bad, the other side is good. We all just want to find a way to make society the best it can be. Do I agree that's socialism? No. Do I agree it's unfettered capitalism? No. Do I agree there could be some nuance? Yes. Do I agree having conversations with people and unpacking your own worldview before you demonize people on both sides would be beneficial? Yes. And yeah, I think because I've been a fly in the wall, I have no real finite culture that's mine because I've been so misplaced. I want to use that experience and help other people kind of unpack and open their eyes to perspective that could help them see the world differently and more holistic and more empathetic. I don't know everything. I'm just a girl that read a lot and loves politics and loves to play devil's advocate. And challenge myself and other people to find the best form of reality they can. Great. This is Nicole Brandt. Hope you enjoyed this if you listened. Always try your hardest to unpack who you are and your life and truth. And I wish you all well in this. And I hope we'll come together and the violence will stop. And there could be a new day and age where people that are on the fence will pick up some literature and read and understand and let the people that be violent and hate and have hatred in their hearts and have hatred in their hearts. The people that want to be informed and intellectual, I challenge you to do it and make your own opinion based on what you read and not based on what you're told or emotionally triggered to feel. Great. This is Nicole Brandt. This is a little bit less intense than my last one, which I'm glad. I'm sorry that was intense, but I was just triggered by the minority-owned business being ruined and minority communities being destroyed. I'm really not that intense. I really want to look at this stuff from a logical, empathetic, and rational way, and not overly emotional. But great, this is Nicole Brandt. Have you a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.